Hey everyone, welcoming you all. Today we are going to understand a very new concept of administrative law, that is rule of law in simple manner possible. So let us know first the introductory part of the very theory, that is rule of law. So rule of law is the foundation of democratic governance where law, not individuals or institution, holds ultimate authority. So the very criteria itself, that is rule of law, says that law should be the one who will be ruling, no matter whether the other important or other powerful organs are. Only rule of law will prevail. Rooted in ancient philosophy, rule of law ensures that everyone, including the government, is bound by established law. So rule of law is something which is has its roots in ancient era itself. It's not something that is of modern discovery. And rule of law says that rule of law ensures that everyone, including the government, is bound by established law. So rule of says that no matter if the other person is a government or some other powerful authority, they are bound to, you know, is bound by established law. So they cannot deny the law just because they are having some extreme power. Rule of law guards against arbitrary power and upholds fairness, justice, and equality. So the aim of rule of law is to guard against arbitrary power and uphold fairness, justice, and equality. So rule of law uh, makes it sure that there is fairness, justice, and equality, and there is elimination of arbitrary power. It safeguards individuals' right by limiting authority, ensuring accountability, and promoting transparency. So this 2 point is the aim of rule of law, that is, it safeguards individuals' right by limiting authority. It has kind of limited the power of the powerful authority, and it ensures accountability, and also it promotes transparency. As a core principle, rule of law safeguards human rights, secures justice, and ensures equality under the law. So again, the principle of rule of law says that it safeguards human rights, it secures justice, and ensures equality under the law. So that is the basic introductory part of doctrine of rule of law. So now let us know about the very meaning of rule of law. As I say, the meaning is itself hidden in the term. It's a rule of law. This law would be the one who would be the ruling. Rule of law means governments by laws ensuring all actions, including those by officials, follow a legal framework. So rule of law basically says that no matter how much powerful authority you hold, you have to, uh, you know, work under rule of law. You cannot deny the fact rule of law. Derived from the French la principe de legalité, rule of law means decision must be guided by law, not discretion. So this is a very important maxim from where the rule of law has been derived, which is in French, and it says that decision must be guided by law, not discretion. So any judgment that is be given should be guided by rule of law only, not any other mere authority. As Professor Wade observed, the government should be subject to the law, highlighting legal supremacy. So if we talk about the meaning, we can also refer some jurist or philosopher who has defined what rule of law is. So according to Professor Wade, it says that the government should be subject to the law. So that they say that the government shouldn't be having all the power itself. There should be some authority which will be governing the which will be checking the government's working as well, and that is the rule of law. Even the government has to work under rule of law. Black's Law Dictionary defines rule of law as a system where laws are applied consistently, free from arbitrary interference. So, this is the one definition given by Professor Wade. This is another definition that we got to know from Black's Law Dictionary, which says that rule of law is a system where laws are applied consistently, free from arbitrary interference. So, where there is rule of law, there is no place for arbitrary interference. Lord Danning emphasized that no one, regardless of power or status, is above the law. So Lord Danning is the third one in the who is giving meaning to rule of law. That is, uh, Danning emphasized that no one, regardless of power or status, is above the law. He basically says that no one, no matter he is a king, he is someone who is having very extreme power under the government. Everyone is bound by law and they have to work according to the rule of law. So let us know the principle and purpose that the rule of law talks about. So the rule of law underpins constitutional democracy, safeguarding freedom, equality, and fundamental rights. So basically, rule of law serve the purpose of safeguarding freedom, equality, and fundamental rights. This doctrine limits executive power, ensuring laws protect rather than oppress in individual rights. So rule of law again stays as a checks upon executive power so that they cannot abuse their power and they work more efficiently, keeping in mind that law is above everything and therefore they are bound by the rule of law itself. So let us know about rule of law in Indian context. So in India, the Supreme Court has made the rule of law as a basic feature of the constitution beyond Parliament's power to amend. So as we all know, Kesavananda Bharati was the state of Kerala, which is also known as uh, fundamental rights case, given the theory of basic structure doctrine, where rule of law is a part of it. So rule of law is beyond amendment. So using any amendment, you cannot just remove the rule of law from the constitution or the basics from the list of basic structure doctrine. It ensures fair treatment, ban discrimination, and affords liberty, equality, and fraternity. So basically, liberty, equality, and fraternity, what rule of law safeguards. So it ensures fair treatment among all the people, despite their status, despite their job, despite their color, whatever there are differences. Rule of law treats everyone equally, and it bans discrimination. Rule of law basically says that there shouldn't be any discrimination based on any ground, and everyone should be treated fairly in the eye of law. So now let us know about the origin of rule of law or the historical background of rule of law. The rule of law traces back to ancient Greek philosophy with Aristotle, Plato, Cicero advocating rule by laws over arbitrary power. So as I said, rule of law has its origin from ancient era itself. So if we talk about or if we need to name some particular person behind it, we can say Aristotle, Plato, and Cicero, are some people who were uh, talking about rule of law and they were against the arbitrary power. Plato warned that state declined when authorities override laws, while Aristotle saw the rule of law as essential to natural order and good government. So Aristotle saw rule of law as essential to natural order and it is important to have a good governance. In 1215, the Magna Carta established the rule of law in England by forcing King John to accept limits on his power. So, if we talk about from which time England has been accepting rule of law, we can go back to year 1215, where the Magna Carta was established, and the King John has to accept rule of law and he has to work according to the limits on his power. After monarchy, parliament conflicts, the rule of law strengthened, establishing parliamentary supremacy and legal limits on executive power. So earlier we have this monarchy system, then we had this democracy kind of thing. So after monarchy, parliament conflicts, the rule of law strengthened, establishing parliamentary supremacy and legal access on executive power. So these are also two things that rule of law safeguards or rule of law or the purpose of rule of law. In 1776, Thomas Paine declared that in a free nation, law should be king, rooting the rule of law in US ideal. So, uh, in the year of 1776, US adopted the theory that is rule of law. A.B. Dicey later formalized modern rule of law principles, stretching in the law of the Constitution that government actions must conform to established law. So A.B. Dicey, who is another philosopher, so in his book In the Law of the Constitution, he says that the government action must conform to established law. This principle guides democracy societies, ensuring government actions stay within legal boundaries to uphold justice and equality, so that the government uh, won't be able to work in arbitrary manner. Rule of law should be there for better governments. Therefore, be it England, be it USA, be it India, everyone has rule of law in their legal system, so that every government can work, efficiently without using arbitrary power and should treat everyone equally despite having any discrimination on any ground. So now let us talk about some important case laws, because when we talk about law, so there's very much necessity that we include some case laws to make our answers or make our concept more, you know, more important or more like necessary to add case law. So let us talk about case of Bharti versus State of Kerala. As I said, it's also known as fundamental rights case, which is very important to remember. So what happened in this case? Rule of law is a part of basic structured doctrine. So in this case, Supreme Court has given the judgment that rule of law is a part of the basic structured doctrine. Therefore, it cannot be amended using any kind of mere amendment procedure. Next, we have Maneka Gandhi versus Union of India. What happened in this case? Supreme Court declared that Article 14 strike against arbitrariness. So this is a decision given in the case of Maneka Gandhi versus Union of India, which holds a very important place in the list of rule of law case. Then the next case we have Indira Nehru Gandhi versus Rajnarayan. Article 329 inserted by 39 amendment granted immunity to the Prime Minister's election from judicial review. The Supreme Court declared Article 329A Clause 1 invalid, deeming it a violation of the Constitution basic structure. So let us know what has happened in this case. So what has happened? The basic feature or basic purpose of rule of is to serve everyone equally. So what happened in this Article 329? Article 329 was inserted by 39 amendment, which talks the one of which granted immunity to the Prime Minister election from judicial review. So judicial review again a very important feature and it cannot be curtailed. So the Supreme Court declared Article 329A Clause 1 invalid, deeming it a violation of the Constitution basic structure. So therefore Article 329 Clause A has been struck down by saying that it is destroying the or it is violating the very feature of basic structure doctrine. So these three are very important case law in this manner, which you need to remember when you try to attempt any answer relating to the rule of law or whereas you were trying to give some competitive exams as well. So that's all about the concept of rule of law. So we'll be meeting soon with another video and I will try to cover the other topics as well. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you for watching the video.